Joseph Stalin was a Soviet politician who rose to become the dictator of the Soviet Union from the mid-1920s until he died in 1953. Stalin's rule was marked by immense cruelty, with millions dying due to his policies and actions. Stalinism refers to Stalin's policies and rule and is often synonymous with a terror regime and authoritarian government. Stalin was born in Georgia in 1878. He was born in poverty to an alcoholic cobbler father and a washerwoman mother, and he contracted smallpox at the age of 7, leaving him with pockmarks on his face and a somewhat malformed left arm. He was bullied by other children while also receiving beatings from his father. Stalin was born with the name Ioseb, Joseph Vissarionis Yughashvili. Nonetheless, like other Russian revolutionaries, notably Vladimir Lenin, Stalin chose the alias by which he is now most famous. He studied to become a priest before becoming involved in revolutionary politics. He joined the Bolsheviks, the faction of the Russian Social Democratic Labor Party led by Vladimir Lenin, and rose through the ranks of the party. After Lenin's death in 1924, Stalin emerged as the leader of the Soviet Union. He centralized power within the Communist Party and embarked on a program of industrialization and collectivization that aimed to transform the Soviet Union into an industrial superpower. However, the cost of this transformation was immense. Millions of people died as a result of forced labor, famine, and political repression. Stalin's regime was characterized by terror, with political opponents, intellectuals, and ordinary citizens subjected to arrest, torture, and execution. One of Stalin's most infamous actions was the Great Purge of the late 1930s, during which hundreds of thousands of people were executed or sent to forced labor camps. Stalin was notoriously paranoid and believed there were enemies everywhere, both within and outside the Soviet Union. He implemented a policy of collective responsibility, under which entire families could be punished for the actions of one member. This led to countless innocent people being imprisoned or executed simply because they were related to someone who was thought to be an enemy of the state. Stalin also oversaw a number of brutal forced labor projects, including the construction of the White Sea-Baltic Canal and the Moscow-Volga Canal. Thousands of people died due to the harsh conditions, and the projects were primarily seen as a means of punishing political dissidents and enemies of the people. Stalin's cruelty extended beyond his own borders. He oversaw the Soviet Union's involvement in World War II, and millions died due to the war. Stalin's tactics were marked by ruthlessness, and he was willing to sacrifice huge numbers of his own troops to achieve victory. In the war, Stalin annexed eastern Poland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and portions of Romania to reinforce his western borders. After the war, Stalin oversaw the Soviet Union's occupation of Eastern Europe, and many of the countries that fell under Soviet control were subjected to brutal repression and political purges. The Soviet Union also developed a vast network of prison camps, known as the Gulag, in which political dissidents and other state enemies were imprisoned and subjected to forced labor. The notorious prisons incarcerated about 18 million people throughout their history and operated from the 1920s until shortly after Stalin died in 1953. Stalin's legacy is a complex one. On the one hand, he is celebrated by some as a hero of the working class and a master strategist who led the Soviet Union to victory in World War II. On the other hand, his legacy is marked by immense cruelty and the deaths of millions of people. In recent years, there has been renewed interest in Stalin's legacy and ongoing debates about his place in history. Some see him as a cautionary tale about the dangers of authoritarianism, while others see him as a hero who stood up to the forces of capitalism and imperialism.